All failed us. We got 2 innocent lives that's gone for no reason. Don't do nothing to nobody.
Family members still searching for answers as court documents provide new details in a deadly police shooting that followed the killing of 2 cousins. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're learning more about the lives lost in a North Minneapolis shooting Monday. Family tell us that 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Akwame Stewart were killed.
Let me ask you something real quick. What if someone was released from jail and within less than 3 hours, 2 people were dead? Not strangers. Family. His own blood. A 14-year-old boy and a 23-year-old man who had absolutely nothing to do with why he was locked up in the first place. That is exactly what happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota on February 23rd, 2025. And the scariest part? The warning signs were all there, plastered on social media for anyone to see. But nobody stopped it. Nobody could. And by the time anyone tried, it was already too late. If this is your first time here at Shadow Crime, welcome. And if you have been rocking with us, you already know we do not sugarcoat anything on this channel. We go deep, we go real, and we talk about the cases that make you question the very systems that are supposed to protect us. So if you are new, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you click that bell icon so you never miss when we drop. Because trust me, you do not want to sleep on what we bring to this channel. Now let's get into it. Eddie Darren Duncan was 23 years old, born and raised in North Minneapolis. To people who knew him on the surface, he was just another young man from the north side trying to navigate life. But underneath that, there was something brewing that the people closest to him either did not see coming, or maybe did not want to believe. He had been in and out of trouble since he was young. Back in 2019, when he was still a juvenile, he was charged with illegal possession of a handgun. That case was eventually dismissed after he completed probation. Then as an adult, he picked up drug charges and took a plea deal. Traffic violations here and there. Nothing that screamed monster. Nothing that made people think this man would one day walk into a family home and take 2 lives. But here is what people tend to forget. Sometimes the signs are not always what someone has done in the past. Sometimes the signs are in how a person is behaving right now, in real time, and whether or not the system is paying attention closely enough to act on it. Because Eddie Duncan was not hiding. He was not being quiet or laying low. This man was on Facebook, posting his own mugshot like it was a profile picture, dancing on camera with a gun in his hand, calling himself God. And if that was not enough to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, he posted that he had not slept in 4 days. 4 days. And anybody who knows anything about the human mind knows that going without sleep for that long does not just make you tired. It can make you paranoid. It can make you unstable. It can push someone into a psychological state that is almost impossible to reason with.
All failed us. We got 2 innocent lives that's gone for no reason. Don't do nothing to nobody.
Family members still searching for answers as court documents provide new details in a deadly police shooting that followed the killing of 2 cousins. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're learning more about the lives lost in a North Minneapolis shooting Monday. Family tell us that 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Akwame Stewart were killed by their own cousin. A search warrant spells out just how close that shooter came to claiming more lives. Court records confirm that the suspect left the scene of the crime, then started shooting at police. The search warrant application says Eddie Duncan fired a gun at officers, striking 2 squads when police arrived in Brooklyn Center. Police say officers returned fire, shooting and killing him. New at 10, our Uba Ali talked with the sister of the 2 shooting victims and explains why they say the justice system failed their family, Uba.
Yeah, Aaron, a very emotional interview. 2 brothers, loved and full of promise, gone. The family says this tragedy could have been prevented. They blame the justice system for allowing bail and their own relatives that paid it.
I wish I could just get one more phone call and them asking me like where I'm at.
One more conversation, one more chance. That's all Deaisha Freeman wants.
Well, you know my brothers would give you their last.
Police say Monday, 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Akwame Stewart were shot and killed.
Like, why? Like, why did you do this to my family?
The accused gunman, their cousin, Eddie Duncan.
We grew up with Eddie, and nothing was never like wrong with Eddie. So like this just was unexpected, like to take two innocent family members.
Court records show Duncan was released on bail Monday despite a pending psychological evaluation. Freeman says Duncan's family saw the warning signs and still bailed him out.
If y'all knew that he wanted to harm you all, why go bail him out of jail?
The Hennepin County Attorney's Office says they noted Eddie Duncan was a public safety risk and asked for a high bail, much higher than a typical request. Do you feel like the justice system failed y'all?
Yes, they did. They all failed us. We got two innocent lives that's gone for no reason.
This family has already buried another brother to gun violence, and they'd never imagined facing this kind of loss again.
We didn't even grieve over my oldest brother yet. It did. Two more brothers that once him.
But even in the heartbreak, it's the memories of the good days carrying them through.
These my happy brothers. Like, I just miss their smile.
According to a court-licensed examiner, without a violent criminal history, they had no way to keep Duncan in jail. The BCA is now leading the fatal police shooting in Brooklyn Center, and that obviously continues
That
tonight.
investigation. All right, we appreciate it, Uba. Thank you.
Now I want you to think about this for a second. All of that was public. Every single post, every video, every word he typed was visible to anyone with a Facebook account. And yet, here's the thing that gets me. Nobody had the legal power to stop what was coming. Because in the state of Minnesota, the Constitution gives every person the right to bail. It does not matter what the red flags look like. It does not matter what is on your social media. If the court sets a bail amount and someone pays it, you walk. Simple as that. Now, let me take you back a little bit so you can fully understand how we even got to that point. Because this did not start on February 23rd. This started months before. In the early hours of a morning that most people in Minneapolis were probably still asleep. It was around 3:26 in the morning when officers from the Robbinsdale Police Department spotted Eddie Duncan speeding and running a red light near Highway 181. They tried to pull him over. And instead of stopping, he floored it. We are talking about speeds reaching up to 90 miles per hour through the streets. And when he finally lost control of the car and it flipped over, he did not wait around. He jumped out and ran. When officers searched the vehicle, what they found was not just a regular handgun. It was a Glock 9mm with an extended magazine loaded with 29 rounds and an auto sear switch attached to it. Now, for those of you who do not know what an auto sear switch is, it is an illegal modification that converts a semi-automatic handgun into a fully automatic weapon, meaning instead of firing one bullet per trigger pull, it fires continuously like a machine gun. So we are not talking about someone who just had a gun on them. We are talking about someone who was riding around at 3 a.m. with a weapon that is capable of mass destruction. A criminal complaint and warrant were filed, and on February 15th, Eddie Duncan was arrested. And this is where things started to get really interesting, because once he was behind bars, his behavior became even more concerning. He refused to show up to not one, not two, but 3 of his scheduled court appearances. Just flat out refused. Now, when someone starts refusing to engage with the court process, that raises questions, and the court did take notice. On February 20th, a judge ordered a psychological competency evaluation because at this point it was clear something was not right. But here is where the system hit a wall. That evaluation was not scheduled until March 24th, over a month away. And in the meantime, his bail was set at $70,000 or $35,000 with conditions which prosecutors specifically requested to be higher than usual because they flagged him as a public safety risk. Do you see where this is going? Because I need you to stay with me here.
An absolutely heartbroken family is sharing their grief and pain after 2 of their loved ones were killed on Monday by a family member. They say 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Akwame Stewart were shot by their cousin, Eddie Duncan. Fox 9's Karen Scullin joining us now with this heartbreaking story. Karen?
Yeah, this family has already endured so much with the homicide of a family member a couple of years ago. And now that victim's 2 brothers are shot and killed, leaving their loved ones in just unimaginable pain.
I noticed my niece and my nephews upstairs and my grandma, and she was like, I think he killed my baby.
Deasia Freeman got to her mom's house Monday afternoon and walked into an absolute nightmare. With her young niece and nephews hiding in a closet, she made a tragic discovery.
Then once I look to my right, which is what Kwame room at, I noticed Akwame and Xavier on the floor with a lot of blood, and I called my mom. I came back downstairs. I'm like, Mom, please get here now. They killed my brothers.
Deasia is the only girl and the oldest of 8 siblings, 3 of whom were murdered. 1 2 years ago, the other 2 on Monday. 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Akwame Stewart were killed by their cousin who had just been released from jail.
I still wake up fighting and seeing this picture in my head of me knowing my brother getting shot in front of me, and then me coming home seeing my 2 brothers on the floor and just looking like they was asleep. They didn't even look like they was gone. They just looked like they was asleep.
Deasia says Kwame painted, cooked, and fixed everything around the house. And Xavier got good grades. He was funny and loved to play with her young children.
It's hard for me to explain to my kids, like, my brothers is gone. Like, you know, they no longer here with us anymore.
She says Akwame would never have expected Eddie to hurt or kill him or anyone. She believes young Xavier tried to intervene.
It's going to be hard to come in bringing my kids knowing that they're not here anymore.
Now, the cousin, Eddie Duncan, fled to Brooklyn Center after that shooting where he was killed in an exchange of gunfire with police. The family is getting support and help through the outreach group A Mother's Love, who was also there when they lost their other brother in 2023. Now, to help with funeral expenses, we have a link to their GoFundMe on our website. Just go to fox9.com. In studio, Karen Scullen, Fox 9.
Ooh, praying for that family. Thank you, Karen.
So the court did what it could within the boundaries of the law. The prosecutor raised a flag. The judge set a higher than usual bail. The psychological evaluation was ordered. On paper, it looks like the system was trying. But here's the part that nobody can seem to get past. And honestly, I do not blame them. On Sunday, February 22nd, a bail bond company called Midwest Bonding LLC posted that $35,000 bond. And the very next day, Monday, February 23rd, at exactly 12:41 in the afternoon, Eddie Duncan walked out of Hennepin County Jail a free man. Let that sink in for a moment. A man who was flagged as a public safety risk. A man who was carrying a fully automatic weapon at 3 in the morning. A man who was refusing to show up to court and was awaiting a mental health evaluation. That man was now back on the streets of Minneapolis. And what did he do almost immediately after getting out? He got on Facebook. Now I know some of you might be thinking, okay, people post on social media all the time. What is the big deal? But this was not a regular situation. The posts that Eddie Duncan was putting up that day were not normal. He was posting his own mugshot, not as a joke, not as a throwback. It felt more like a statement, like he was announcing something. He was posting videos of himself dancing around with a gun, calling himself God, and somewhere in between all that, he posted that he had not slept in 4 days. And if you are sitting there wondering why that matters so much, let me break it down for you. Sleep deprivation at that level, we are talking about 4 full days without rest, does something serious to the human brain. Doctors and psychologists will tell you that after 72 hours without sleep, a person can begin to experience symptoms that look almost identical to psychosis. Paranoia sets in. The ability to think rationally starts to break down. A person can begin to hear or see things that are not there. And most dangerously, the emotional regulation that normally keeps people from acting on extreme impulses, that starts to collapse entirely. So when you combine 4 days of no sleep with a man who already had a loaded automatic weapon, who was already behaving erratically, who was already in a fragile mental state, what you have is a situation that was almost designed to end in tragedy. And tragically it did. Less than 3 hours after walking out of that jail, at around 3:30 in the afternoon, police were called to a home on the 4200 block of Irving Avenue North in Minneapolis. Inside that home, 2 people had been shot. 2 people who had done nothing wrong. 2 people who woke up that morning with no idea that day would be their last. And the person who took their lives was someone they called family.
Story here at 6 surrounds the complicated pair of deadly shootings Monday afternoon. We reported it here yesterday for you. 2 people shot and killed in Minneapolis in a home there. The suspected shooter was then shot and killed just a couple miles away in Brooklyn Center. That's where we find Fox 9's Karen Scullen now, near the Brookdale Shopping Center where gunshots were exchanged yesterday, Karen. It sounds like there's some new footage, situation involving the same man just last year.
That's right. There is that, and we'll show that in just a moment. But first, we are at the IHOP in Brooklyn Center, where it is currently boarded up and still closed after police say there was an exchange of gunfire that ended with the death of that 23-year-old man who allegedly killed two of his cousins just hours earlier. A wild ending to a horrific chain of events. Brooklyn Center police responded to a man waving a gun and ended up exchanging gunfire with him, killing 23-year-old Eddie Duncan. Investigators believe Duncan went to Brooklyn Center after killing two of his cousins in Minneapolis, ages 23 and just 14. Something family and the community is trying to comprehend, especially a neighbor and youth sports coach.
He was definitely a happy kid. Like I said, I just can't wrap my head around it because he never really gave issues to anybody.
Questions are swirling now over what could have led Duncan to fire at his family. Eddie Duncan had been in jail after he was picked up on a warrant that stemmed from an incident in May involving Robbinsdale police. Dash cam video shows Duncan was pulled over for speeding and running a red light. But a short time later, he hit the gas, taking police on a pursuit. Eventually, Duncan crashed and rolled his car, but he crawled out of it and then ran from the scene and wasn't found. Inside his car, though, police pulled out a Glock with an auto sear that makes it fire like a machine gun. An extended magazine was also found with 29 rounds, and there was one in the chamber. After Duncan was finally charged and a warrant was issued for his arrest earlier this month, his Facebook page shows a post where he hasn't slept in 4 days. Then on February 15th, he appeared to be up all night, posting minute to minute and repeatedly posting his mugshot that showed up on a social media site. Duncan was arrested on February 16th. A competency evaluation was ordered, and the judge set bail at $35,000. He was released on February 23rd at 12:41 p.m. Police say he went to his cousin's house about 3 hours later and fired those fatal shots. Many finding it hard to understand a 14-year-old suddenly gone.
Somebody as fun as him, with the smile he has, you wouldn't expect that.
Now, a lot of people have been questioning that $35,000 bail that was set, or bond that was set. The Hennepin County's attorney's office saying this afternoon that that is actually higher than they normally ask for with the charges that were against Duncan. So they did set it for $35,000 with conditions, and he did bail out for that amount. Now, he only spent a few days in jail, and then he was subsequently released because of that bail. He was released yesterday around 12:41, and then again he did kill, or allegedly kill, his cousins just a couple of hours later. The BCA is investigating the scene here, the shooting here involving Brooklyn Center police. Minneapolis police are investigating the one on the north side. We are live in Brooklyn Center. Karen Scullen, Fox 9.
All right, Karen, thank you.
Xavier Vincent Marquis Barnett was only 14 years old. 14. He played youth football, and his coach described him as disciplined, focused, and full of potential. He was the kind of kid that coaches love to work with because he showed up, he put in the effort, and he took the game seriously. And Akwame Davron Shaquelle Stewart was 23, a painter, creative and thoughtful by nature. These two were brothers, and on that afternoon, they were both in a home that should have been a safe place, a family home. But Eddie Duncan showed up there after being released from jail, and before anyone could make sense of what was happening, both of them were gone. And it gets even harder to process when you find out who else was in that house. The boy's grandmother was there, and so were 4 young children, ages 7, 8, 9, and 10. For babies who had to hide and wait while something unimaginable was happening around them. I want you to just sit with that image for a second, because those children are going to carry that day with them for the rest of their lives. After the shooting, Duncan did not turn himself in. He fled north toward Brooklyn Center. And this is where the story reaches its final chapter. Police received calls that a man was outside waving a gun near businesses on Brooklyn Boulevard, close to an IHOP restaurant. When officers arrived and confronted him, Duncan opened fire on them, striking 2 police squad cars. Officers returned fire, and Eddie Duncan was shot. He was rushed to North Memorial Health Hospital, where he later died. 3 Brooklyn Center officers were placed on critical incident leave, and the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension took over the investigation as a standard in cases involving officer-involved shootings. The victim's sister, Deasia Freeman, said something that I think a lot of people felt deep in their chests when they heard it. She said they all failed us. We got 2 innocent lives gone for no reason. And she is right to feel that way. Because when you look at the full picture, the social media posts, the refusal to appear in court, the automatic weapon, the flagged public safety risk, the delayed mental health evaluation, every single piece of this was visible. And still, 2 people lost their lives. So here are the questions I want to leave you with today. At what point does the right to bail become a danger to the public? If someone is visibly in a mental health crisis, and the warning signs are right there on social media for the world to see, why does the system have to wait until after something terrible happens to intervene? And for those 4 children who are hiding in that closet, what does justice even look like for them? This case is not just about Eddie Duncan. It is about every gap in every system that allowed this to happen. And until we start having honest conversations about those gaps, stories like this one will keep finding their way to channels like Shadow Crime. If this video moved you or made you think, please hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Shadow Crime and click that bell icon so you're always the first to know when we go deep on cases that matter. We will see you in the next one.